On July 23, 1944, the rolling fields of Normandy were shrouded in mist. The air was thick with tension as the sun struggled to break through the heavy clouds. Somewhere near the hedgerows, a tank lay broke a Knight's engine. Silent, its turret twisted at an awkward angle. Yet this battered machine, marked with the faded stars of the American forces, was about to rewrite what the German Panzer Division thought possible. The battlefield was a patchwork of mud, shattered trees, and trenches carved deep into the earth. Explosions echoed in the distance, but here, the quiet was almost deceptive. Soldiers crouched behind wreckage, watching. Among them, the crew of this broken tank prepared for a moment that would define their place in the chaos of war. The tank was the M4 Sherman, known for its reliability, but often criticized for its thinner armor and less powerful gun compared to the German Panzers it faced. Many believed that a damaged Sherman was a liability, an easy target to be avoided or abandoned. But this particular tank, though impaired, was still a weapon, and its crew still held on to hope. Inside, the driver tightened his grip on the controls. The gunner checked his sights one last time, and the commander, a young sergeant, whispered a brief word of encouragement. They knew their odds were slim. The enemy was experienced, well-equipped, and ready to strike. Yet, something held them steady. The broken Sherman was not just a machine left behind. It was about to become an instrument of defiance. Its story, unlike the many forgotten on the battlefield, would survive in whispered disbelief among the German forces. They could not understand how this seemingly crippled tank managed to stand its ground and inflict damage on their elite Panzer division. The M4 Sherman was far from perfect. By 1944, the tank had earned a reputation for being undergunned and underarmored compared to the German Panzers, especially the feared Panther and Tiger models. Still, it was produced in great numbers and relied on speed, maneuverability, and crew coordination. The Sherman's crews were often young men, freshly trained, thrust into the brutal realities of mechanized warfare. The crew of this particular Sherman was no exception. The tank commander, Sergeant James Whitman, was just 23 years old. Born in rural Ohio, he had enlisted shortly after America entered the war. Like many of his generation, he had imagined heroism in broad strokes before facing the complexity and terror of combat. Whitman had been assigned to the 3rd Armored Division, a unit engaged heavily in the Normandy campaign. He was known among his peers as calm under pressure and fiercely protective of his crew. His driver, Corporal Samuel "Sam" Rogers, was 19, his first deployment, and still grappling with the fear that war brought to every moment. The gunner, Private First Class David Klein, was a mechanic turned soldier, whose steady hands belied his nerves. The Sherman they operated had already seen action. It bore the scars of past encounters, dents from shrapnel, scratched paint, and a turret that no longer rotated smoothly after a close hit. During a recent skirmish, the tank's engine had been partially disabled by artillery fire. Despite these damages, the crew refused to abandon the vehicle, knowing that retreat was as dangerous as standing their ground. Their mission on July 23rd was clear but perilous: delay the advance of a German Panzer division moving through the region, buying time for Allied infantry to establish positions. Intelligence had warned of the enemy's elite status veteran tankers whose discipline and firepower had overwhelmed many American units. The tension was palpable. As the Sherman maneuvered through narrow hedgerows, the crew worked in tight coordination. Every shot counted. Every decision was a matter of survival. The odds were stacked heavily against them. Across the battlefield, the German Panzer crews were confident. Their tanks, with heavier armor and superior guns, had crushed opposition repeatedly. Yet they had underestimated the resolve of a broken Sherman and its crew, who refused to be written off. This moment on the muddy fields of Normandy was not just about tanks or tactics. It was about the raw human will to survive, to fight, and to make a difference against overwhelming odds. It was about how a damaged machine, combined with determination and courage, could challenge assumptions and alter the course of battle. As the Sherman lurched forward through narrow lanes bordered by thick hedgerows, the crew prepared for combat. The turret's mechanism groaned with every attempt to aim, and the engine coughed under strain. The radio crackled with fragmented messages from other units retreating or calling for reinforcements. Every sound carried the weight of imminent danger. Whitman steadied his voice. "Keep your eyes sharp. We're not finished yet." His words were not bravado. They were a call to focus. The first engagement came quickly. German tanks appeared over Ori's sleek Panthers, gleaming with their thick armor and long barrels. The Sherman's gunner, Klein, took aim despite the turret's resistance. The shot was imperfect, but effective. It forced one Panther to halt and adjust its approach. The German crews were momentarily stunned. They had not expected resistance from a visibly damaged Sherman. Whitman seized the opportunity, ordering the driver to maneuver aggressively, using the terrain to hide the tank's vulnerabilities. The crew worked with a single mind, anticipating each other's moves. For hours, the broken Sherman fought. It dodged artillery shells, returned fire under heavy pressure, and managed to disable or delay multiple German tanks. Each successful hit was met with silence from the crew, an unspoken acknowledgement that survival was still uncertain. The transformation of this broken tank into a formidable obstacle was as much psychological as tactical. The German Panzer crews, initially dismissive, began to hesitate. They adjusted strategies, approached more cautiously, and even withdrew temporarily to regroup. On the Allied side, news of the Sherman's stubborn defense spread quietly. It became a symbol of defiance and resilience, not because of overwhelming firepower, but because of human determination. Whitman's calm leadership and the crew's unyielding cooperation demonstrated how cohesion could compensate for material disadvantage. Yet the battle was far from over. The tank's engine was deteriorating rapidly and ammunition was running low. The crew faced exhaustion and injury, but they pressed on, knowing that their resistance was buying crucial time for infantry units to fortify positions behind them. At one point, a direct hit from a Panther shell nearly flipped the Sherman. The tank lurched violently, throwing the crew against their restraints. Dust filled the air. For a heartbeat, silence fell. Then, Whitman's voice cut through the chaos. "Stay with me. We're not done yet." That moment marked a transformation not just of the tank, but of the men inside it. Fear gave way to resolve. Desperation transformed into purpose. The broken Sherman was no longer a symbol of weakness, but a beacon of stubborn endurance. By nightfall, the German Panzer Division had been delayed significantly. Their advance slowed. Confusion seeped into their ranks. The story of the tank that refused to fall spread among soldiers, inspiring both respect and disbelief. Whitman and his crew survived the day, battered but unbroken. Their Sherman remained a battered fortress amid the chaos, a testament to what determination and teamwork could achieve even when the odds seemed insurmountable. This is the story of how one broken American tank disrupted a Panzer division, not by might alone, but through resilience, leadership, and the unyielding will to fight. As the battle pressed on into the afternoon, the German Panzer Division grew increasingly frustrated. Their superior numbers and firepower seemed to count for a little against a single broken Sherman that refused to fall. To their commanders and crews, the idea that a damaged, slower, and less armored tank could hold them off was almost unbelievable and impossibility that challenged everything they had been trained to expect. The German tanks had dominated much of the battlefield in previous engagements, their Panzer IVs, Panthers, and Tigers striking fear into Allied units. They were well coordinated, experienced, and equipped with guns capable of piercing the thickest armor. Yet here, in the muddy fields of Normandy, that advantage seemed to erode against the stubborn resistance of a single crew. Sergeant Whitman's Sherman had been severely damaged earlier, its engine unreliable, and turret partially jammed. Tactically, many would have considered it a lost cause, abandon the vehicle, retreat, regroup, but the crew refused. They clung to the tank as both a shield and a weapon, embodying a determination that went beyond machinery. The impossible idea was simple, that sheer willpower, quick thinking, and teamwork could overcome material disadvantages. While the Germans relied on the strength of their machines and coordinated tactics, the Sherman's crew adapted constantly. They used the terrain to their benefit, hid behind hedgerows, and made each shot count, compensating for their vulnerabilities. The psychological effect on the German crews was immediate. Confidence shifted into caution, then into hesitation. Reports from the field noted frustration as one Panther after another was forced to pull back or sustain damage from unexpected angles. This broken tank was more than a machine, it was a symbol of resilience that unsettled the enemy's belief in their own invincibility. In one critical moment, when the Sherman's engine sputtered dangerously low, Whitman ordered a risky maneuver to reposition behind a rise. The gunner, Klein, took aim at a Panzer caught briefly in the open. The shell struck true, disabling the tank's turret. The German crew scrambled, shocked by the unexpected setback. That strike was pivotal. It not only bought more time, but also sent ripples through the enemy's command. Orders became cautious. Advances slowed. The previously unstoppable Panzer division found itself uncertain in the face of a damaged but relentless adversary. Allied infantry units nearby took heart from the Sherman's stand. The tank's unexpected resilience disrupted the German timetable, allowing soldiers to strengthen defensive positions and coordinate counter. What might have been a rapid armor breakthrough became a grinding, uncertain fight. For the Sherman crew, exhaustion was intense. Hours of constant vigilance, firing under pressure, and managing a failing machine pushed them to their limits. But the impossible idea kept them focused. Survival through resistance. Strength and persistence. In the eyes of the German soldiers, disbelief turned to grudging respect mixed with frustration. How could a single damaged Sherman stall the advance of their best Panzer division? It was a question that echoed beyond the battlefield, challenging assumptions about power, technology, and the unpredictable human element of war. This impossible stand did not end the battle, but it altered its course, demonstrating that even in the face of superior firepower and numbers, determination and strategy could shift the balance. The broken Sherman, far from being discarded, became a symbol of tenacity and the unpredictable nature of combat. As daylight faded into dusk, the tension on the battlefield reached a fever pitch. The German panzer crews were determined to destroy the stubborn Sherman, while Sergeant Whitman's crew fought with the desperation of men who knew every second could be their last. The Sherman, though crippled, continued to move in short bursts, ducking behind cover and firing when possible. Its damaged turret refused to rotate fully, forcing Gunner Klein to compensate with quick adjustments and split-second timing. Each shot was calculated, each movement cautious but resolute. German tanks closed in. Panthers and Tigers maneuvered to encircle the Sherman, their guns trained to deliver final, decisive blows. The enemy's strategy was to overwhelm and isolate the tank, cutting off any hope of escape or reinforcement. Inside the Sherman, Whitman maintained calm command. Hold steady. Watch, the flanks were still here. he said quietly, his voice steady despite the chaos. The crew responded with practiced efficiency, covering each other's blind spots and adjusting to the tank's limitations. Suddenly, a Panzer fired a shell that struck the Sherman's side armor. The blast rocked the tank violently. Smoke and dust filled the interior. Klein's vision was blurred, but he forced himself to keep firing. Rogers, the driver, wrestled with the controls as the engine faltered. The tank shuddered, nearly tipping over in the uneven ground. For a moment, it seemed the end was near, but Whitman refused to surrender. With an effort born of exhaustion and willpower, he ordered a desperate counterattack, ramming the side of a Panther that had come too close. The impact stunned the enemy tank and bought precious seconds. That moment of shock allowed the Sherman to reposition behind a hill where Allied artillery finally found the range. Shells exploded near German tanks, forcing them to scatter and reassess. The tide of the immediate battle shifted. The crew knew their ammunition was nearly spent, their engine barely running, but their defiance had altered the battlefield. What once seemed inevitable Panzer Damassois delayed, fractured. As night fell, Whitman radioed command. Sherman still holding. Enemy pressures intense, but we're buying time. His message was brief, but carried a weight beyond words. The German commanders, frustrated and confused, ordered a tactical withdrawal, their advance checked by the unyielding Sherman. For the crew, the day ended not with triumph, but survival. They had faced overwhelming odds and stood firm. Their broken tank had become a fortress, a symbol of endurance amid destruction. In the quiet aftermath, the battlefield bore witness to a truth often lost in war's grand narratives, that courage, determination, and human will can turn even the most unlikely tools into instruments of resistance. This is the story of how one damaged American tank reshaped a battle and confounded its enemy not by sheer power, but by the indomitable spirit of those who fought inside it. After the battle, the battered Sherman and its crew became a quiet legend among both Allied and German forces. Though the tank was heavily damaged and ultimately removed from the front lines, its impact on the German Panzer Division was clear. Their advance had been slowed, their confidence shaken by a seemingly broken opponent that refused to yield. The significance of this encounter lies not in the destruction of entire units or dramatic victories, but in the unexpected disruption of an elite armored force by a single tank and crew. The Germans could not reconcile how a vehicle marked as disabled could resist so effectively. For them, it challenged the accepted hierarchy of strength on the battlefield. In the broader context of World War II, this event highlighted the crucial role of human determination in combat. Tanks, weapons, and technology were vital, but the courage, leadership, and teamwork inside the Sherman mattered most. It showed that material limitations could be overcome by resolve and adaptability. The story also reflects the unpredictable nature of war. Battles rarely follow simple rules of power and advantage. Small acts of defiance or resilience can change the tempo, affect morale, and alter strategic outcomes. In this case, the broken Sherman delayed the Panzer Division just enough to allow Allied forces to regroup and strengthen their positions. Historians view such moments as essential reminders that war is shaped by individuals as much as by armies. Sergeant Whitman and his crew exemplify how frontline soldiers confront chaos with resolve, often under impossible conditions. This episode does not glorify any side, but rather emphasizes the human cost and complexity of battle. It invites reflection on how stories of resilience and determination emerge even amid destruction and loss. The legacy of the broken Sherman endures as a symbol of perseverance against overwhelming odds. Sergeant Whitman and his crew's stand has been remembered in military histories, veteran accounts, and battlefield reports. Not for the tank's strength, but for the spirit it embodied. Their story reminds us that war is not only about machines and strategy, but about people who make impossible choices. The damaged Sherman was more than metal. It was a home, a weapon, and a lifeline for those inside it, a testament to teamwork under pressure. Though the tank was eventually retired, its impact on the battle's outcome and morale was lasting. For the German panzer crews, the experience became a cautionary tale about underestimating the resolve of their enemies. For Allied forces, it was an inspirana demonstration that even in weakness, there can be strength. This human note challenges simplified narratives of victory and defeat. It reveals the ambiguity and complexity faced by those in combat, where courage often means standing firm in the face of near-certain danger. Sergeant Whitman and his crew did not seek fame or recognition. They acted out of duty and survival instinct, their actions recorded in logs and memories rather than headlines. Their story, like many in war, is a quiet testament to the resilience found in ordinary people pushed to extraordinary limits. For modern audiences, their stand offers lessons beyond military history. It speaks to the power of persistence, the importance of leadership in crises, and the unpredictable ways human will can influence events. The broken Sherman, though battered and flawed, became a symbol not of failure, but of defiance, a reminder that sometimes the most unlikely forces shape history. Questions for the audience. How could one broken tank shake the confidence of an entire elite Panzer division? What does that say about the power of determination? If machines and weapons aren't everything, what role does human spirit play in the chaos of war? Have you ever faced a situation where refusing to give up changed everything? How does that connect with the crew's story? This is the history of World War II. Whoever oppresses the innocent is an oppressor. Neither the earth belongs to this oppressor, nor does the sky belong to him. We stand now and forever with the oppressed. This WWII Files. See you in the next one.